The senior says he's got every right to keep boiling up moonshine in his own home, and he's going to go to jail to make his point. Videographer Dan Pekovsek has the story.
The groundswell of public support that I'm getting, the emails, the phone calls, the number of people who have bought my book.
What has it meant for sales of your book and your still?
Oh, I sold more in the last month than I have all the previous year. So I am converting people to crime. There's no doubt about it.
It's from this quiet Aurelia neighborhood that 66-year-old reborn Christian Bob Siebert plans on waging his crusade for justice. Justice, in his mind, is the ability to moonshine from your home for your own purposes, legally.
I'm in court today because I refused to pay the $575 fine that earlier I had agreed to, but for making moonshine. It is against the law as its present form.
I totally support what he's doing, and I think the government should stay out of our houses. What we do in the privacy of our home is our business.
How does the government maintain safety?
Oh, by licensing people. How do they maintain people driving an automobile? They license them. They put them through a training course. I'm really using the scenario of what happened in New Zealand. It became so horrific by all the people that the police and the authorities there went and said, give us more money. The politicians refused to give them more money, so what happened is they changed the law. The judge this morning must, because of our laws, right now, must see me as a criminal. I want to make it so horrific and so obvious to the government that they will have to go to the politicians, and the politicians will be faced with exactly the same dilemma.
The judge here at the Aurelia courthouse was hoping that Bob Siebert would take an extension to pay the $575. However, Bob didn't want to hear of it. He wanted to be put in jail to make a point about a law that he felt was unjust. The judge ultimately had to concede and gave him 10 days to be served on weekends at the Barrie jail. I'm Dan Pekovsek outside the Aurelia courthouse for VR.
I'm Tom Alderman with the story of a man and his still, both dedicated to breaking the law that says, thou shalt not make your own liquor.
I'm Mr. Moonshine, and the support that I'm getting, I'm the local hero.
It's illegal against the Excise Act to manufacture, sell, help to manufacture, produce, or have any equipment necessary to manufacture illicit spirits.
Hey guys, that's good stuff, Bob.
Cheers. Cheers. Cheers.
In the still of the night, tomorrow night on the National.
Cheers, everybody.
Another way of $25 designer candles.
It started out as a hobby, but soon it was Bob Siebert's passion, making moonshine in his house. Trouble is, homemade booze is illegal in this country, and Siebert soon found himself in a whole mess of trouble. Not that he's backing down. As Tom Alderman found out, the Ontario man is putting up a spirited fight to make moonshine legal once again.
Hello. Yeah.
Bob Siebert was minding his own business at home one night when the call came out of the blue.
Yeah, I'm free next Monday morning, and I'll look forward to seeing you.
A trucker said he'd heard a lot about Bob on the internet. He'd like to drive by in his 18-wheeler and drop in on Bob's place north of Toronto for a look-see at the product Bob was peddling. Mind if he came by? Bob's vicious guard dog, Sam, was suspicious right off. But Bob's a trusting soul. Besides, he loves to show off his wares. Here, try a sample. The stranger said he'd certainly be back. If you want a bottle of vodka, gin, or similar sustenance, you pretty much have to buy it at your local government-controlled liquor store. Unless you decide to make the stuff yourself at a fraction of the price. In which case, you've made moonshine, and strictly speaking, that's illegal. Though the law, in this case the Mounties, the law doesn't ordinarily get too worked up about it. But every now and then, just to show that they're still on the ball, the law does get worked up and rises up in all its majesty to swoop down on some humble practitioner of that ancient craft of moonshining. Turns out the stranger did come back with 9 other Mounties, which is why Bob found himself in an RCMP interrogation room explaining why he was such a dangerous man. Here the Mounties were hoping to bust a big-time commercial moonshine ring, and they wind up with a small-time hobbyist so naive that he brags about the quality of the stills he sells on his internet site.
You're not being kept. We're just going to release you on a what's called a promise to appear.
Great.
Bob's got no hard feelings, though.
To me, it was, in hindsight, just as great as the movie The Sting. I mean, they did a phenomenal job. The acting was superb.
Such massive effort by the Mounties had to justify itself. So they charged Bob, and Mountie Mike Cote is prepared to defend, in careful legalese, going after a small fish like Big Bob Siebert.
I don't really want to get into specific details as to how the investigation took place or any investigational techniques. Suffice it to say that contact was made with Mr. Siebert, and as a result of that contact, investigators in this case obtained a judicially authorized search warrant. A search warrant was executed at Mr. Siebert's residence, and charges were laid subsequently.
Not that they've stopped them for an instant. Bob's still performing the Moonshine Sonata. Indeed, after 66 years on Earth, born-again Bob has discovered his raison d'etre. Change the bad law that outlaws moonshining. The Lord will approve.
I felt it was wrong then. I think it's wrong now. And I don't think I've changed my mind now. In fact, I know I haven't changed my mind. It's gotten more solid that it is a stupid law. And that somewhere, the only way you change laws is somewhere you just stand up to them. And that's what I was doing.
You can blame Prohibition for Bob's troubles. It swept North America in the 20s when moonshiners were a hunted species. And the laws against making it yourself are still strict. Today in Canada, it's mostly amateurs intent on avoiding the fierce taxes on commercial liquor. Sometimes the product is pretty good, but at times, when sloppily made, it can kill you. Being found guilty is the most fun Bob's had since he went bankrupt some years ago. Before, nobody knew his name in the small summer community of Aurelia. He was just another lonely pensioner out walking his dog. Not now, especially since he point-blank refused to pay the $575 fine. Bob insisted on being sent to jail.
And I loved it. And the promotion, I became the local hero. The support I got was mind-boggling. I'm Mr. Moonshine.
Aurelia hasn't seen such celebrity since humorist Stephen Leacock made the town and its inhabitants famous in his renowned Sunshine Sketches of a Little Town.
Introduce you to the Premier of Ontario, the Honourable Michael Harris.
So when Ontario Premier Mike Harris turns up to open a new old folks home, well, big deal. Reporter Mike Tenson will cover it for the local daily, but Tenson, who's been Bob Siebert's Boswell through all this, knows everybody would rather read what their local moonshiner is up to.
If Leacock was around, this guy would be one of those characters in the Sunshine Sketches. I call Siebert the moonshine man from Sunshine City. I mean, it's corny, but, you know, what else can you say? That's Bob. Here are the Mounties faced with biker gangs, faced with murders, running around uncaught, unfound. And we got some guy who's making hooch in his basement on a still for his own consumption, he says. Why are we expending 10 RCMP officers to go to his house? Why are we renting an 18-wheeler?
Bob's been up and Bob's been down throughout a career in small business ventures. But when he discovered moonshine, he knew he had found his one true faith.
If you can make beer or wine, they don't tax that. Why then can't you make a little bit of moonshine? People, in their privacy of their own home, yes, they're beating them, okay? Is that bad? Is that totally bad?
He remembers the first time he made some. Bob got a few friends together to watch his still in action and see how his very first batch would turn out.
So that afternoon, none of us were full of anticipation, and and then all of a sudden this stuff starts to pour out of the still. We don't have an alchemy, we don't have anything else, but we put it in a bottle, and because I'm the guinea pig of the whole thing, and I hadn't drank in 15 years, I put about that much in the bottom of a glass and fill it up with Coke. Well, I got hammered. So we all joined in, and it was one of the greatest days of my life. I mean, we laughed, we cried, we got a little drunk, but was there pleasure? Memories that I'll cherish to the day that I die, okay?
From the cross to the grave, from the grave to the sky, Lord, I lift your name on high.
It's a peculiar avocation for a born-again Christian, making moonshine and selling stills to help others make it. When Bob turns up at his weekly fellowship meeting, he feels obliged to seek forgiveness from his Lord, his fellow worshipers, and the Reverend Jerry McMillan for what many would regard as sinful transgression, but which Bob sees as a popular uprising.
But the support of the people I'm getting, and the response in the mail, the email.
Bob remains a staunch member of Father Jerry's flock, even though the good Rev isn't entirely happy with the notoriety of his infamous parishioner.
We all have issues in our life, okay? And a church is to be open to anyone that would come, and we're to minister to them. And, you know, Christ says that everyone is our neighbor.
Even moonshiners.
Even moonshiners.
Let the law rage, let the taxman fume, let the goody two-shoes sneer. Bob Siebert is convinced he's doing God's bidding.
Again, I come back to the fundamental issue of my destiny, okay? And again, I have to come back to God, that somewhere He's telling me to go out and create humor, bring enjoyment to other people. And so far, this is my goal, and so far I'm succeeding.
In the still of the night, it's party time at Bob's, and no need to bring your own bottle. Friends gather to sample a new batch, and the fact that it's illegal adds to the gaiety. It's a bit of a going-away bash for Bob, who's looking at hard time, at least 10 days, 7 with good